All right, so today we're going to talk about 5 key principles to understand how to overcome pornography. Number one, very important, come out of hiding. You need to get rid of the secrecy and share your story, share your history. You want to choose some people who are safe, who are going to keep your confidence and not go blabbing it, go gossiping around to other people. But you really need to find several people who you can share your whole history with. Oftentimes we refer to this as a sexual history. Start from when, maybe even your early sexual experiences, whether they were voluntary or involuntary, and anything that relates to your sexual history. It could include being sexually abused. You want to share all of that with somebody. It also helps to understand how this problem developed for you. But what it does, what can be so helpful about it, is that it removes the shame around your sexual past and catches them up to date on where you are right now. You can actually find patterns in it for why it developed this way. You can learn about yourself as you create a sexual history and try and remember everything, and then share that with them. As part of formal disclosure, you'll be doing this under the direction of a therapist if you are married and disclosing to a spouse. But it's important that we create, sometimes in 12-step it's referred to as an inventory. And again, it's a little bit different than just a formal disclosure to a spouse, but you want to create a sexual history to share everything, even the stuff you are so embarrassed about and you wish you could take to your grave. Anytime you have secrets, your shame is going to go up. When your shame goes up, your acting out increases to make the shame go away, which obviously is a cycle that doesn't stop. So come out of hiding, get rid of all the secrets, all the stuff you're ashamed of. Find 3, 4, 5 trusted people that you can share your whole story with, catch them up to date, and then any slips moving forward, you share with them. So very important that we do this in order to get rid of the secrecy and the shame in our lives. Second, daily connection. You want to talk about the good and the bad that is going on in your life. You want to get daily connection. Don't get trapped into thinking that every time you reach out and call a friend, you've got to talk about your sexual problems or you've got to talk about bad things. Talk about the good things. In fact, ask them, hey, we were talking the other day and you mentioned that you had a job interview. How did that go? Or, you were going to go hang out with your friend. How did that go? Like, talk about life. Get connection every day about the ongoings of life, good, bad, neutral. Come out of hiding in a way with just your everyday behavior, your everyday life, things that you're enjoying, a book you like reading. I almost say that it's almost like 10% of the time you're talking about the bad, 90% of the time you're talking about the good or neutral or average. And if you're getting connection every day, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to move away from loneliness. And loneliness and isolation oftentimes is a big reason that people go to pornography, to get rid of that pain of being lonely or isolated. So, third, in order to overcome pornography, you need to set a strict rule that you have 12 hours to report a slip. So this comes kind of back to that first piece, come out of hiding. If you're reaching out and connecting with people every day, then you're used to talking to people. So you might, in your conversation, say, hey, just so you know, I've got to report a slip to you. Before we talk about anything else, I just need to come clean and make sure you know. And so set a rule for yourself that you have 12 hours to report a slip, and you are not allowed to go over. The sooner the better that you report it. Because sometimes if we slip, then we start going, well, I've got to report it anyway, so I might as well slip again. And that just starts a vicious cycle. Stay out of that. So report your slips right away. talk to your friends, your families, your loved ones. Say, hey, how would you prefer I report the slip to you? It's probably best if you do it face to face, or at least over the phone. You could do it over like a video chat, like a Marco Polo type app. Text message is probably the worst way to do it, but it's better than not doing it at all, because you want to come out of hiding, get rid of that shame, and be authentic. Number 4, create and develop structure. So creating and developing structure is figure out what routine in your life is the best for you to follow to stay out of the traps that you were in. So let's say I know that I get home from work or I get home from school, whatever's going on for me in my life, and I know that I have some downtime and I'm bored and no one's home yet, or everybody goes to sleep and I'm up late, and I know that that's the time I usually act out. So typically when I'm working with somebody who's struggling with pornography compulsivity, you can really pinpoint it down to routines. So it happens at work during this time, or it happens at night when everyone's asleep, or whatever, right? So you start to figure out what are those routines when it's happening, then change those routines. So occasionally I'll have somebody who changes the routine, they have sobriety like they never have before, their recovery is going really good, and then they're like, man, I'm good, I'm cured, I don't have a problem anymore. So they go back to living their old way of life, and then they wonder, why are they acting out again? Well, they're acting out again because you can't go back to living the way you used to live. If you figured out a routine that works for you, stick with it forever. You cannot change your routine or your structure. If you figure out how to get sobriety and live a healthy recovery, then you've got to live that recovery from here on out. If you stop living recovery, then you go back into the addictive cycle or the compulsive cycle, and you can't do that. So you can tweak your routine. So I have one buddy who he uses basketball, and that he plays basketball with his buddies all the time. They go early morning, they play basketball, and he does that multiple times a week, and that's his routine, that's his structure. And sometimes we joke that, man, when he gets injured, his addiction can easily flare up or the temptation to act out flares up because that's all he had. So let's say he switches it and he says, man, I'm going to start mountain biking every day. Okay, that's fine. Whatever it is that you do, you can change your structure as long as you change your structure to something else that complements it, rather than changing your structure and moving it back towards your old way of life and therefore your old ways of numbing or reducing pain in your life, such as pornography. Or don't switch it and say, oh, I'm healed with pornography, but man, alcohol is great. You can't switch to another negative behavior. So once you figure out your structure, stick to it. Make very few changes to it unless you're trying it out and realizing, hey, this structural change is beneficial, it's helping me, this is my new way of living. So make changes to the structure, but carefully, because once you figure it out, stick to it. All right, and lastly, the 5th thing, really important, as you have developed a routine and you're feeling better in your recovery, use lots of self-compassion. If you feel a temptation come up, don't beat yourself up. It's normal. It happens. But use self-compassion. Hey, of course I'm feeling tempted. I've been struggling with my routine a little bit. My sleep has been off. I'm really stressed out at work. Of course I'm going to feel these temptations because that's what happens when my routine starts to get a little wonky, a little unstructured. So be compassionate. Recognize that this is part of life, that these things happen. If you end up having a slip, don't get in your mind, oh, I've got to start over. That's absurd. You can't start over. You've got to get back into your routine and refine whatever the problem was. But there's no such thing as starting over. I've got to look at why the slip occurred and continue to move forward. I'm doing really well. I made a mistake. mistakes happen, and now I'm going to figure out how to overcome that mistake and continue to move forward in my recovery. So lots of self-compassion, lots of understanding for yourself, and being kind to yourself. You cannot use shame to motivate you to heal. So lots of self-compassion. These are just 5 quick principles that I believe are key in overcoming pornography addiction.